Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Ocran. Welcoming you to Ghana's foremost developmental program and the place where the greatest minds in the world converge. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation and proudly sponsored by MTN Ghana and the Enterprise Group. Our media partners are the Multimedia Group and the Graphic Communications Group. Last week, we explored the universality of marketing. We called it that wow factor, that hidden code, that secret, the magical tool that could be the game changer for your life as an individual, a corporate entity, and even as a nation. We promise to be back because in the course of that conversation, another important theme emerged. The theme of resurrection, or was it recovery, or was it reinvention, or rebranding? Whatever it is, there was a doing again of something that had gone bad along the line. Before I introduce my guest for today, let me read Job 14, verse 7 to 9. It says, "For there is hope for a tree, if it is cut down, that it will sprout again, and that its tender shoots will not cease. Though its root may grow in the earth, and its stump may die in the ground, yet at the scent of water it will bud and bring forth branches like a plant." How does a scent of water manifest? How does a tree that is dying or dead come alive again? Is it possible to rebrand an institution gone bad? My guest for today is qualified to help us understand that. After having written 41 books, he knows one or two things about marketing. A top expert across the continent of Africa with 25 years of experience in the field, ready to be a blessing to us. The Pro Vice Chancellor at the Ghana Communications Technology University, my friend and brother, Professor Robert Hinson. Prof, good to see you.
Very good to see you too. Always a pleasure to be here.
Yes. It's a blessing. Thanks for making time so soon after to be.
Yes, please.
For us to extend the conversation. Last week we were looking at the fact that marketing is everything. You can't, and you taught Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 was a lesson in marketing.
Very much. God announces himself, presents a proposition. We buy into the proposition. We are still valiant followers today. That is marketing. Yes.
That's it. I love it. I call it biblical economics. I love it when we can take scripture and use it to underpin, undergird, and settle matters that relate to management, economics, finance, and so on. So today I brought a scripture to set us on the way. With our conversation on rebranding.
Absolutely.
And so let's start from the point of excellence.
Yes.
Service excellence.
Yes.
What is it and why is it crucial for institutions to make that their number one calling?
Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity again. And to the extent that we are speaking from Accra, in a country called Ghana, on a continent called Africa, let me start by making my typical provocative statement as an opening. I think service excellence is actually the panacea for a multiplicity of business challenges confronting several institutions in Africa today, both in the public and the private sectors. And so you find that service excellence, properly defined, is just your ability to provide exceptional service over and over and over again on your good days, on your bad days, at every customer touch point, both to internal and external customers of your institution. Now, the reason why it's a life and death matter is that once you get service excellence right, you have a certain systematic way you deal with your internal customers who are your employees. Once you get service excellence right, there's a systematic way you deal with external customers who come, buy your services, and pay you money that makes you a profit. Now, 7-8 years ago, I wrote one of the books you spoke about. It's called Customer Service Essentials. And on chapter 2 of the book, very early, I speak about the 5 basic ones of external customers. I speak about things like consistent service, value-based pricing, quality and action, appreciation, need for customer care. Now, consistency is actually the bane of several institutions in Africa today because We think service excellence is about smiling. No, it's about systems, it's about strategy, it's about structures, it's about providing the appropriate skill sets, it's about making service excellence a shared value within the institution. So if you don't get those things as a basis, then you don't have the building blocks to start with. So just shouting at a teller to smile is not going to give you service excellence. So there's a certain roadmap you must build. I was just with a client, we are thinking of training 500 people in the institution. And she was telling me that, look, Prof, the teller must understand that if they don't get the heart of the branch manager, they don't know where the pain points are, and they can't go to work every day knowing that their delivery affects the branch performance. And that makes sense. So it's a mindset, it's a roadmap, it's a strategy, it's structures, it's systems, it's processes to ensure that we have a systematic journey we go on so that at every point at which we interact the customer, we deliver exceptional service every day. And it's not so simple. It sounds simple the way I'm speaking in English, but it's not so simple. So there's a whole science behind it. So if you don't have the appropriate teams building the systems and following through, you can be the best MD God ever made. Without a system in place, you never achieve exceptional service excellence. It will never happen.
Let me just take the word consistency and talk about both on good days and on bad days.
Correct.
And let me use your kind permission to pull out an illustration that we used for one of our publications on consistency.
Correct.
And about a lady called Sandra who was a waitress in a restaurant.
Yes.
Noted for exceptional service, rain or shine,
Correct.
no matter the customer. And in an industry where tips were the driver of many people's expectations and hard work,
Absolutely.
she will do it for anyone, whether the person had money or not.
That's right.
And one day, this old man walks into the restaurant and she's serving him, and the man is slow, asking all kinds of questions about shrimps and lobsters. What's the difference?
Absolutely.
And the colleagues are laughing because it's prime time where the tips, the biggest clients come through, and this old man was taking his time.
Absolutely.
Only for him to finish. He leaves, she supports him and he leaves, and she's cleaning the table and she finds that his invoice is still there. It falls accidentally and she realizes $500 has fallen out of the receipt.
Oh, wow.
So she's asking, does this man even have $500?
Yeah.
So she picks the money, honest person, to run after him and give it back to him. Then she realizes that there's a note behind the receipt.
Yes.
And it says, "Dear Sandra, your manager told me you were good, and I came to check for myself.
Wow.
As you can see from my signature,
Yes,
I own this restaurant and all of them in the chain.
No way.
Would you kindly consent to be the manager of the big one we are opening in the mall shortly?"
No way. That's exceptional.
Straight from that place to manager position.
Wow.
Because of a reference that was given that she's that good consistently.
Okay.
Help
So
us
let me piggyback off the Sandra example to explain a certain organizing framework I've been using for the last maybe decade or so on what constitutes that consistency. What makes you excellent? And I use the word customer to explain the framework. So CUSTOMER. Now, if you are going to be consistent, the C means challenge yourself on a daily basis to learn new behaviors to deliver customer delight on a daily basis. So you're always open, innovative, checking what is working, what are the new trends, what can I improve? And that's the Sandra type attitude. Challenge yourself daily to learn new behaviors to deliver customer delight. You means understand customer problems and find the best ways to solve them on a daily basis. It means that every day you are oriented towards what the customer is saying, not what you feel they should be getting. S means satisfy customers in such a way that they don't have any option but to stay with you and not go to the competition. So Sandra comes and knows that rain or shine, I must make sure this one leaves delighted and satisfied. T means treat customers as if you are in an individualized relationship with them.
Beautiful.
So no matter what the pressure is in the restaurant, Sandra knows that once you are there, she must treat you with individualized care. O means own customer problems and solve them efficiently. In the scheme of things, consistency is ownership. Because that ownership mindset means that no matter what I'm going through, I'll sort this out. You have a long haul type of mindset. Oh, get it done. It doesn't matter what it means. M means make recommendations that always leaves the customer in a positive net situation. Positive net situation means I have a problem. You sort me out. I pay for it. By the time I'm paying, the value I get from that sorting out must always exceed the money I paid you for the service you rendered. So you make recommendations. E is the cool one. E means educate customers to understand your offerings in such a way that they make the best decisions for themselves. Now, to educate a customer, you must be educated yourself. So you know your product portfolio, you know competitor portfolios, you know the products that are being energized by AI, you understand tech. So educate them so that when they are making decisions, they make the best one that they could possibly make. R is the last one, to be consistent. Resist the edge to be flippant. Flippant is good one day, bad one day, good. No, that cannot. Bible says, Reuben, unstable as water, nothing good will ever happen for you. Resist the urge to be flippant. The consistency will come.
Prof, if I tell another story, will you give another acronym?
Go ahead. I have plenty in my head. Different.
I have another story.
Go ahead.
But this one, I will not mention a name.
No problem.
The good one I'll mention, in the bad one I'll not mention.
No problem.
So there is this hotel chain in the US that starts with W.
Correct.
A hotel chain.
Yes.
And the owner is somebody that nobody knows.
Absolutely.
He's the majority shareholder, but he never comes to public meetings. It is only the top people that know him.
Yes.
So this guy goes to one of his hotels and he's trying to make an inquiry, and the front desk lady is just doing makeup and say, oh man, sit in the corner, that day she's having a bad day. Charlie, sit in the corner. And the guy sits in the corner, and the manager comes to pass, sees the client sitting in the corner. A number of times, nobody minds him. Until after a number of minutes, suddenly there's a flurry of activity. And they come and lay a red carpet. And they say,
wow,
apparently the regional director of the hotel chain is visiting the hotel.
Wow.
So the managers come, they line up on the red carpet, both sides, they lay the carpet. And then the regional director enters ostensibly to inspect the guard of honor. Then he looks to the left and he sees his boss's boss sitting in the corner. Then he shouts, "Hey, Professor Hinson!
Wow.
What are you doing here?"
Absolutely.
Then everybody knows the name Prof. Hinson, but nobody has seen him before.
Wow.
So they turn, and here's the old man now crossing his leg and smiling.
Oh, wow.
And you know what? How they say, I've sacked myself. Now that you know he's the owner of the hotel chain, how do you now say, oh, it was just a bad day? We are not like that on
trouble.
All this.
We don't do bad day.
The shaking from the regional director who was visiting to the manager of that hotel to the front desk person. And you are saying that it must be a consistent thing.
Consistent.
Now, how do you convince the decision maker that, oh, it was just today that was a bad day?
No,
we're not like that, we are like that
no,
every
no,
day.
no.
Comment on that one, Prof.
Listen, there are 8 best-in-class attitudes if you want to avoid such a hazardous behavior. So in my book, I share this 8, and I'll go through quickly. So this time I'm using my book, not the customer framework. Number 1 is understanding cause and effect relationships. But let me tell you, you see, the MDs get it, senior management gets it. But when you percolate down, you find that the shop floor people, they don't get it. They are not bad people, but they haven't quite understood the utmost importance of consistency in delivering on the organizational mandate. So they are good people, but they don't get it. So the number 1 requirement for avoiding such hazardous and ill-mannered behavior is to understand cost. So we must explain the strategy to the lowest of the organization so they get it. And when they come to work on a daily basis, they are empowered to live the service mission on a daily basis. Number 2, understand customer needs. Now, that sounds intuitively like a no-brainer. No, it's a problem. Look, there are several institutions in Africa that don't have data-driven mechanisms for understanding customer needs. So they just have a sense, but there are no rigorous. Look, maybe a little later I will speak about customer feedback tools, and I can tell you 20 different tools you can have, because a total market survey is not a focus group. A customer panel is not mystery shopper. And sometimes we just think that everything, not everything is mystery shopper. There are some customer feedback tools whose actionability is higher than others. If you do a total market survey, it's different from a focus group of 15 clients. So there's a science behind which tool you use, what you use it for, and so on and so on. So number 2 is understanding customer needs. Number 3 is developing a passion for service. Again, that sounds like a no-brainer. A lot of people are just lackadaisical. It's like they are dead inside. And people wonder why I'm always on fire. I'm always on fire because if you're a service champion, you don't have off days. Every day you're on fire because the thing is you don't know when the opportunity to shine will occur.
But the funny thing about life is that the day you're off is rather the day the biggest opportunity will come.
That is the point. That's why you must never go off. All Bible says you should be instant in and out of season. It's a clear biblical mandate. We are vigilant all the time. We are like watchers on the wall. We don't sleep. Number 4, eagerness to make a difference. Albert, that best in class attitude, when you have it, your supervisor doesn't have to worry about you. Look, you are consistently on the lookout for continuous improvement opportunities. That's how your brain works. Eagerness to make a difference. Number 5, understanding value adding through service and quality. Knowing that the extra is always you. It's not the product you are selling. The extra is always you. So you are always the key difference between a mundane product and exuberant customer experiences. The next one is respect for people. You come with no idiosyncrasies, no prejudices. Whether they are short or tall, you treat them well. Tribal markings don't matter. Respect for people. The last but one is interestingly your first word. Consistency and perseverance. Because trust me, service blockades will come. But the ability to have a dogged and a tenacious attitude is what will keep you from the quagmire you just described. And the last one is the coolest one, competing with yourself. So you come to work every day determined to be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. You'll never go wrong.
Charlie, can I tell you another story?
Go ahead.
I must tell you a story. I must tell you a story.
You go ahead.
Once we went to, and this relates to what you said about respecting people, which is one of my highest values.
Absolutely.
Sometimes people assume that just by looking, they can tell the client who is bringing big money and the client that is not bringing.
Yes, and they can miss it very badly.
Senior, there was a day we went to Aspen, Colorado.
Indeed.
And I was with a number of leaders from Ghana here. We went for the African Leadership Initiative, the Aspen Global Leaders Network engagement.
Absolutely.
We were coming back and this guy just, we were standing in the queue to board the local flight back to Dallas Airport.
Correct.
And this guy just came and walked past us and said hello, like he was going past in the queue in his khaki shorts and slippers.
Yes.
Charlie, some of my friends were, Charlie, join the queue. I mean, what's this? And the
guy,
he didn't even look like a serious guy.
It's khaki, always khaki.
Charlie. And I said, Charlie, Obi man, so you just leave him and let him go.
Yeah.
Charlie, the guy went past us, said hello to the guy at the counter, went behind the counter, walked through the door, and because it was glass, we watched the guy walk to a private jet, spark the plane, fly the plane.
No way. You were going for normal domestic flight.
The guy is going with his private jet. So you should join the queue.
Now, is he going where you're going?
His khaki shorts and t-shirt and slippers. Charlie. So, Prof, speak to this issue of using appearance and getting it so wrong, and then later you're trying to recover the thing, and Charlie, it's become a whole thing himself.
It's a very deceptive way to live your life
because both in the issue of Sandra and in the issue of the hotel chain.
Yeah.
The assumption is that the old man is nobody.
Yeah.
He does not have money. When the big man or the big woman comes in and they park the big car, you will see my customer service. Must it be a client that when you see, you say, this is an earth-shaking one? How do you establish consistency that does not differentiate?
You see, most of the time, the guy in the pinstripe suit is the one who needs high purchase to buy the Mercedes. The guy in the khaki shorts, he has dollars in his pocket. He can count 100,000 cash and you fall down in the showroom. So when the guy enters and you are twisting your waist and misbehaving, you are missing the point because he doesn't do high purchase. He's not come to pay half and the bank will come and take ownership of the car. No. He's paying cash. I've said time without number that appearances will always be deceptive. So when you go, good morning, sir. It's a pleasure to see you today. You've won every time. Look, I walked into a bank. A lady was saying hi in some very lackadaisical. I said, madam, aren't you happy? Say hi, ma. Yes, hi. I said, oh, where's the energy? Really? I said, madam, listen. I was at the Potter's house in Dallas a couple of years ago. There was a guy 6'4", who was screaming as I came near the church, "Welcome to the Potter's House." I said, hey.
This week we gather leaders, we gather church workers, we gather, and I'm talking about the morning sessions. That's for the evening. The evening is a convocation, the Easter convocation. And congratulations for your being nominated as an outstanding role model.
Thank you, sir.
For your work in the area of marketing.
Thank you, sir.
But this week we gather not just for the evening plenaries, but in the morning for the leaders conclave that features pastors,
indeed,
church leaders,
indeed,
business and corporate leaders,
indeed,
and then also church workers.
Indeed.
Prof, you mentioned a great service experience and
Correct.
the fact that you actually even went ahead and bought their book,
different
testified
things
about the church.
Yes.
But your turning point was not even the word that must have been preached by T.D. Jakes or anyone, but the person shouting
the welcome. I've never forgotten.
And how many years later?
12 years later, I still hear his voice.
About that. How do we measure to say we are, for instance, we've moved up from 64% approval rating to 75? How do you measure?
Excellent question. So there are various tools you can use. You can use things like Net Promoter Score. You can use things like customer feedback systems. But there's one thing I need to say. When the strategy is done, Reverend Ocran, one missing element is also what we call competency frameworks that actually demonstrate to you that for each of the values of the institution, at entry level, these are the service attitudes we need to see. At intermediate level, these are the service attitudes we need to see. At mastery level, these are the service attitudes we need to see. So you find that there's a bit of a lacuna between the lofty service postulations and announcements and the actual attitude which you speak about should be evident in that welcome to the Potter's House guy and Reverend Bishop T.D. Jakes at the top. So if organizations in Africa are minded, after the strategy is done, after the blueprints are done, make sure that there are competency frameworks in place, because when we use those as diagnostic tools, then out of 1,000 strong workforce, we know where number 722 service gaps lie. We know where 515 has service gaps. Then we train aggressively so that by the time you are ready to do homogeneous, everybody has received a requisite training to perform at the level they are required to perform to make the service dream a harmonious service operation. Otherwise, it won't happen. So you need a strategy, you need the frameworks, you need the gap identification, you need the training, then homogeneity can come. Finally, you need to reward excellent performance and punish the service deviance according to 1 Timothy 5:20. That is also needed for discipline to occur. I thought I should chip that in.
If you have a Bible, check the King James Version, check the New King James Version, check the Amplified Version of 1 Timothy 5:20. When I come back, I'll read my version to you, and then we'll go on to, okay, now having established excellence in service and what it looks like and how it is measured, what happens when service fails? When you put your hope in a staff you have employed to deliver on a mandate, and on the biggest day of all, that staff does not perform and is blasted on social media, where do you begin to pick up the pieces? I have a feeling that this will be something that several people watching can relate to and say, Prof, that is exactly the matter here. When we come back, let's talk about how do you redeem a bad situation. When a tree is cut down, how do you get the branches to sprout once again? Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation and proudly sponsored by MTN Ghana and the Enterprise Group, with media support from the Multimedia Group and the Graphic Communications Group. Talking about Enterprise Group, let's swing to what to do when you lose a loved one at home. A bit of a morbid subject, but the Enterprise Group supports you from cradle to grave. And there are times when, in spite of all the fun that we have, you wake up one day and a loved one is lost. And at that point, you just can't even think. What do you do? Who do you call? What's the process? The first person to contact is the disease medical doctor and the Ghana Police Service. If the cause is unknown, the police would have to be informed to issue the coroner's papers signed by a magistrate that authorizes an autopsy to be done. And if you want help, the best organization to call is Transitions, and they will guide you through the process. A stitch in time As they say, it saves 9. This is brought to you by the Enterprise Group, and the number to call 030-263-4777. Email info@myenterprisegroup.io. Enterprise, your advantage. Let's go for a break. When we come back, let's talk about a tree that has been cut down and there is so much noise. Is there hope for resurrection, reinvention, rebranding? Let's find out from Professor Robert Hinson. Please don't go away.
Hello? Bye.
Well, everybody's heard about the bird that will I. Bird, I bet it's the bird that will I. Bird is the bird that will I. Don't you know about the bird? Well, everybody knows that the bird is the bird that will I. Bird, I bet it's the bird that will I.
To consider the implications.
Hello? Everybody knows that the bird is the bird that will I.
Whether it's 1924, 2024, or 2124, we've always known that you are driven by your sense of safety and well-being. It is what drives us to see you through from start to finish, from small to big. And in the last 100 years, as you have evolved, so have we also expanded to serve you in many ways. From cradle to grave, with expertise in insurance, life, pensions, properties, health, and for those beautiful memorable goodbyes. It's 2024, and in all our markets, our pedigree is recognized, our strength respected, our expertise valued, and our solutions sought by all who desire an advantage in life. Experience the time-tested and truly trusted 100 years legacy of Ghana's oldest insurer. Take charge of your future now. Insurance, life, pensions, property management, funeral services, health insurance. Enterprise, your advantage.
This be me, Kobe, aka Kobe Boga, KB for short. And this is my sweetheart, Obahima. Today, I get big surprise for her. Charlie, gone are the days I couldn't spoil my girl. Now I'm engaged to the woman of my dreams. Don't just look at my success. To get here, I had to follow the process. Out of nowhere, I lost my job. But I believe in humble beginnings. I got an idea that I knew I could grow. I started from a small setup, then invested in growing my own coconuts. I then grew my product lines. Now, I sell to many supermarkets in the country. Fellow young Ghanaians, trust the process and keep hope alive.
Take advantage of agri-business through the Ghana Grows program. Ghana Grows, Hope Day.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university. This is the place where the greatest minds in the world converge. Today we're having an exciting conversation with Professor Robert Hinson about service recovery and rebranding. We spent the first part of this conversation looking at the foundations or pillars of service excellence, and it became a story and acronyms or principles exchange. Prof, I love that. I loved it.
It's my pleasure, sir.
I loved it.
It's my pleasure, sir.
Let me just remind you before we continue that if you are a young person looking for opportunities in the areas of agriculture, agribusiness, technical and vocational skills, it's called the Ghana Grows Call Center or WhatsApp this number to get perspectives, ideas, connection to a counselor or some help that you might need to be able to pursue decent and fulfilling careers in those spaces: agriculture, agribusiness, technical and vocational skills. The Ghana Grows Call Center number is 030-8255 775. 0308255 Ghana Grows is a collaboration between MasterCard Foundation and the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. And I say always when we say Ghana Grows, we say Hope Day. Prof, talking about hope.
Yes, please.
Let me read the scripture again and ask you about service failure.
Yes, please.
For there is hope for a tree if it is cut down, that it will sprout again.
Absolutely.
Let's start the rebranding and recovery conversation by first looking at what made the tree get cut down in the first place. What are the major causes of service failure?
Oh, as for service failure causes, there are many and varied. But if we want to use the service marketing mix as an organizing framework, then we can say that service can break down at the product level, it can break down at the pricing level, it can break down at the promotion level, it can break down at the people management level, fiscal evidence management, it can break down at the process level. So let's start from the products. Dear Albert, when people come and they ask you for X, you must deliver X. Recently, I saw on Twitter that the phrase is not actually the customer is always right, but the full phrase is the customer is always right in matters of taste. What that means is that when they ask you for a green apple, give them a green apple. Don't give them something reddish and say, well, the green turns to red eventually, so we've gone ahead and we've made it red, so buy the later version. No, the one. So product accuracy matters in trying to prevent service failure. Then issues around marketing communications. You know, I cut my teeth in advertising, and I remember one of the most catastrophic issues always had to do with over-promising and under-delivering. Because it's all well and good to go and run all these big campaigns, but you can actually call an entity and say, oh, today on page 13, we saw this promotional offer. Can you tell us more about it? Which page? Page 10. This lady on the phone is clueless, has no idea, says I'll call you back. You call again. Well, the printer they promised another version, not the one. So from a promotion standpoint, one of the biggest causes of service failure in Africa is when your marketing communications go to say things that your actions cannot match. So that's another big area in which we fail. The next one is process issues. So you don't align the ops guys with the guys in customer experience in the bank. So they are going out as RMs and salespeople and making all sorts of huge promises. And then when they come home, the back-end guys are saying, oh, why did you go and tell the customer 3 days? This one is 5 days at the minimum. But you see, the other banks are saying 2 days. So we said 3. What are you talking about? If the other banks are saying 2, and you know us is 5, negotiate a 5 and then come over and ensure that you can deliver. So at a process level, sometimes we again overpromise and the back-end can't deliver on what the front-end is saying. The last one is people. I was chatting with a very senior financial service official, and we both agree that there's no bank in Africa that doesn't have challenges. The critical thing is that at the customer interface, how do you manage expectations such that when all is said and done, you give a comfortable enough promise to the customer to ensure that given all your back-end challenges, you still deliver in a way that is acceptable to the customer. Now, when you come to the book, the famous customer service book I wrote, other reasons why customers become difficult and service failure occurs is sometimes we're just rude. You know, sometimes even addiction becomes the problem. You are talking to the customer and say, okay, so anyway, and sometimes people don't know anyway means I'm not interested in what you are saying, so I'm moving on to the next topic. And it's lost on so many people, like anyway. No, you don't use anyway like that. So we are rude and we don't know. Sometimes we don't listen. So the customer is saying one thing, and you forgot that God in his infinite wisdom delivered 2 years and 1 month. The rule of thumb is that you listen twice as much as you speak. So we don't listen, we are rude, we don't meet expectations, we deliver undue stress into the lives of customers, and that's why service failures occur.
Funnily enough, you mentioned this. Sometimes the worst part is a conflict.
Yes.
Or a dichotomy between what the customer is saying their experience was.
Yes.
And what the service provider is arguing that they delivered.
Yes.
Let me quote your friend, Peter Drucker.
Yes.
I know you like Peter Drucker.
Absolutely.
He says quality in a service or product is not what you put in,
Yes.
but what the customer gets out of it. Should that settle this issue once and for all?
It is what it is, because
who holds the marking scheme?
When the customer always holds the marking scheme, and I've said in recent fora that arguments never end well, to the extent that your job as a service provider is just to receive and understand your customer, and then take whatever feedback they are giving you into delivering a more holistic and better service experience the next chance you get it. So the customer will always hold a marking scheme. And the earlier we became wise to that fact, the better it will be for us. Because, when all is said and done, first impressions are always real and lasting. So your job is always to ensure that you don't mess up at the first impression. You do what you say you are going to do. You under promise and over deliver. You listen intently to the customer and ensure that you follow up to validate whatever promise you made, and to ensure the customer, like I alluded to earlier, is in a positive situation after they met you than before they encountered you.
When service fails, what are the implications?
Oh, plenty implications. Number one, you can suffer reputational damage, because there's 30, 40 years of service management research to show that when people are dissatisfied, they tell a whole host of people compared to when they are happy with you. So you can suffer reputation. Number two, you can suffer customer attrition, because the more they are shouting and leaving, the more those who are in front of the shop will leave with them and say, hey, don't go inside, this will kill you. So you lose those you have, and then future prospects may never come to you. Number three, you can suffer market share loss, because when customer attrition becomes intense, it can lead to market share loss. Number four, when the market share begins eroding, revenue will also drop. So you suffer revenue challenges as well. Now, if you don't stop this hemorrhaging, like happened to a famous Pan-African fast food brand about 25, 26 years ago, you actually die in the end. So it's not even a question of what happens when a service failure occurs, but if you don't stem the negative effects quickly, it can get to the point where the institution actually becomes extinct. And I know for that particular Pan-African fast food brand, they didn't just die in Ghana, but they died in other African countries as well, because somehow they didn't meet the expectations of the customers of the countries they went into. They went with what was they reckon was a Pan-African template. So they took the home recipe abroad and tried to colonize the countries they had gone to accept the home recipe. It backfired magnificently.
Before that company died, we had the conversation right here on your virtual university.
Absolutely.
And because it was still alive,
absolutely,
we mentioned not just the name of the company,
yes,
but the name of the recipe and the source.
Absolutely.
We will not mention it again.
I remember.
But I can tell you something.
I remember very well. Yes, I remember.
This thing that you say about if the hemorrhaging is not stopped,
yes,
it could lead to the death of the brand.
Yes.
One gets the impression that the hemorrhaging could take quite some, it's a gradual process.
Yes.
But there are instances also when this hemorrhaging can become very fast. And I'll give you an example.
Yeah. Yes.
A restaurant chain in Australia was doing what they call the 1 foot burger.
Correct.
So if a burger is regularly 6 inches and it's $1, they say pay $1.20, we'll give you a 1 foot burger.
Correct.
And the queues people were buying.
Absolutely.
And then one meticulous client took a ruler and put it against the burger and it was 11 inches. That 1 inch variance constituted a broken promise. You said 1 foot. 1 foot is 12 inches. This is 11 inches. He just put the picture on Facebook and said, no comment.
Wow.
Within 24 hours, by the next day, 144,000 complaints had come about service variation. That is what they call fast bleeding. Prof, is there a point at which the thing becomes irredeemable?
Oh, as for this fast bleeding, you die immediately. Now you can't do anything. No matter the doctors we call, you are gone. But usually, symptoms occur. Usually, and so if you are minded, you are doing your service checks, you are getting the customer feedback, you are doing the research, you are refining your strategy, you survive. But on occasion, you can just fall and die. It's not the norm, but it can happen.
The good news is that this company survived. It was a global brand and it survived.
Brilliant.
But let's start with when it hits you like that.
Yes.
What is the short-term response? What's the medium-term response? And what's the long-term response?
Generally speaking, there are things you can do. Number one, address the customer's concerns immediately as a short-term response, because there's nothing to be gained by going to prolonged debate and dialogue with them and trying to sort of establish a certain position. No, you apologize, you say sorry, and then you try to start taking remedial steps through consistent and deliberate communication. In the book I wrote, there was a chapter where I was discussing how to do apology, how to do atonement, the promptness with which you must respond, how to go through explanation, how to be attentive to the way you give the explanations. Now, in the short term, listen, address the issues, apologize, communicate constructively. A small note of caution though. Apologies must never be rendered in such a way that you end up incurring legal liability that you can't deal with later. So make sure that there's one single source from which these apologies emanate from where the communication, so that it's controlled communication. Otherwise, the situation can become exacerbated because in trying to redeem yourself, you go and now make new promises that you can't deliver on. So just be careful. So you apologize, you acknowledge the issues, you communicate. Now, medium term, we do what is called in the service marketing literature, root cause analysis. So you now do a deep dive on what exactly went wrong. What can we learn from it? And then feed that back into refining your service strategy to ensure that the problems don't occur again. Now, I'm sure on one of the many platforms I've been on with you, I've spoken about the famous phenomenon of the service recovery paradox. The way it works is that people are never impressed with you with service delivery alone. They are impressed with you when you don't have the capacity to only do service delivery, but have an amazing capacity for service recovery as well. Because relationships that are not tested cannot really be vouched for. So you actually need a service challenge to demonstrate to that customer that not only do I have delivery capacity, but I have recovery capacity as well. So every good service entity needs one big service problem to demonstrate recovery. The reason why it's called a paradox though is that you need the problem to show. That's why it's a paradox, because problems are not good things ordinarily. However, if the problem recurs, the paradox disappears.
Okay.
Because now we see you as a trouble causer, problem causer. You are full of problems, not solutions. So you just need one big issue. Do the root cause analysis, sort it out, and find an expeditious way forward. Then, medium term also, you come up with what we call process improvement schemes. So you take the opportunity to troubleshoot your whole service delivery process and ensure that other customer touch points where problems exist, which you may not even have detected before the service failure occurred, are addressed before they turn into failures. Then you also need to do a lot of employee training and development, because sometimes the issues are people related. So if there's a way in which you have to upscale service delivery paradigms, you need to also take steps to ensure that long term, however, you need to develop a continuous improvement mindset so that you don't wait again for a problem to occur, but you have proper system checks in place that have dashboards working where you can have red flags and sort it out. Otherwise, you become a problem entity. Then this one is important to me. Develop a customer experience strategy. Please let me repeat. Develop a customer experience strategy. We are nearly half year 2024. If you don't have one, please start building a regime to develop a world-class 2025 customer. Because you see, people sometimes think of strategy, Prof, you see, you are book long. No, I'm not the problem. Don't call me book long. The issue is that if you don't have a strategy, you will suffer. And when the problems occur, don't now come and say, Prof, so what do we do? No. A strategy helps you to map a journey. So please find a strategy. If not for this year, 2025, have a signed off customer experience strategy by October, November. Then we can be sure that you have solid monitoring and measurement mechanisms in place to ensure that these service failures don't occur again. So short-term atonement, apology, medium-term root cause analysis, long-term, have a continuous improvement mindset and develop a customer experience strategy.
When you talk about atonement, it reminds me of when David went to count the apple against God's instruction.
Indeed.
And what he did to just atone. But let's move on from there and go on to rebranding.
Yes.
Rebranding.
Yes.
It is a cousin of recovery.
It is.
But let's help our viewers and listeners to appreciate what rebranding is and why an entity would even decide that at this point we must rebrand.
So rebranding is such a fact. I remember 9-10 years ago, it was one of the hottest things in Ghana. I was getting calls from all over. Hey, Prof, want to do rebrand, you know? And anytime I hear rebrand, I know intuitively they are thinking about new logo, new colors, a new brand book. And I said, no, stop. I said, listen, stop. I said, listen, any world-class brand is a functional selling proposition and an emotional selling proposition. Usually when people say rebranding, they are thinking about the functional part, the logos, the colors, the outdoor, go and get an influencer, go and get an ambassador. All those things are good. But in Africa, most of the rebrand requirements are in the soft part. It's in the emotional part. So if you don't have the whole attitudinal overhaul, your rebranding is dead on arrival. In fact, you are wasting your time, because I've seen people spend money on the logo side, and the sales became even worse after the logo was changed. So right now, what are you doing? You've gone to heighten expectations.
It's like the body and the engine.
That doesn't matter. In fact, you're actually better off not talking at all, because you were bad on your own. But now you've gone to tell the whole world, I'm new, I'm sharper, I'm leaner, I'm better. Then when they come, the service is even worse than when you went. So what are you? Look, we used to have a saying in advertising that nothing kills a bad product like good advertising. So if you know you're bad, don't talk. Because if you talk and we come, the attrition you face, it to be so bad. So rebranding is good. And I think that even when you don't have service failure, sometimes you see, every brand is born. Every brand grows. Every brand peaks and every brand dies. Ordinarily. But when you take a brand like Coca-Cola, it will never die. It's 100 years and it's still peaking every day, because they put systems in place to ensure that the brand relevance never wears out. That you see, brands that last are brands that stay relevant. So rebranding usually is needed when a brand is jaded, is faded, its relevance quotient is dropping. It's not, look, you were here when we had the famous Mobitel, and we had One Touch, and we had all these analog propositions. Then Space Phone came from the back, GSM, blew through Ariba, blew through MTN, till today is the market leader by far. So sometimes what happens is that when your innovation fountain becomes dry, and you don't keep a tap on changing customer dynamics, then you find that your offering becomes obsolete when you're not even aware. And then things overtake you, your competitors overtake you, and so you begin to lose market share. But all said, let's say you want to rebrand. For me, the first thing is to agree on what the functional value proposition will be and what the emotional value proposition will be before we agree on the rebrand. What does that mean? You need solid research. Rebranding is not a whimsical activity, because you don't rebrand because the MD said, the billboard, now the colors are not nice, so please call the corporate communication people. Please, can we come up with a new logo? No. Feelings and logos are not the way you rebrand. So you do an assessment. You do, what is the current brand identity? Who does it appeal to? What are the value elements? What's our messaging strategy? Are the customer audiences still affiliated with us? Are the affinities strong? Are the emotional bonds dying? who are the key customer audiences you are serving? What kind of segments are we serving? Then what kind of segments do we want to serve? So the research part is crucial. Once the research is consummated, you develop what we call key success factors, because the research tells you exactly where the issues are. And so you define a rebranding objective framework, and then you now start developing strategies to meet the objectives. But please, here's what it is. Before you get to the brand identity part, logos, typography, Pantone codes, guidelines, please work on the service part. So the research phase includes the service quality before the rebranding. Get people clued in on the brand. Tell them what the new service attitudes required. Get that competence framework in place and prepare your troops for the new journey you want to go on. Then eventually you can come up with a visual identity system, communicate it internally, communicate it externally, and then implement the rebrand program.
Beautiful.
But watch the service part. It's not logo first. It's always service first. Yes.
The engine before the body.
Absolutely.
So, Prof,
Absolutely.
I love absolutely the part about the fact that a rebranding is not necessarily driven by a service failure,
No.
but a need for continued relevance.
absolutely.
And then to overhaul a brand that
Yes,
the
please.
fountain, the innovation fountain,
It's dry.
has gone dry.
That is it. Yes.
Awesome. Let's go to an organization that says, listen, I mean, if we'll be honest with ourselves, we have become a place that is inundated with customer complaints. We want to transition to a place that my mom once walked past Eastmont Ward at the 37 Military Hospital.
Yes, please.
And she stopped and held her heart. She talked about emotional connection.
Absolutely.
She stopped and held her heart and said, "Oh, Eastmont." And I said, "What was he your boyfriend? Was he your friend?"
Wow.
And she says, "No,
Yeah.
he was that good."
Absolutely.
The guy had passed, but Charlie, she had to stop in front of the ward and hold her heart.
Yes.
That emotional connection.
It's called resonance.
It was too powerful.
Yeah, resonance.
I was just smiling and watching her.
Absolutely.
How do you transition from an organization that is known for the complaints of its customers to one that when their name is mentioned, they hold their heart and they say,
Well, you start from a point of humility, because anybody who wants radical service transformation must be humble enough to understand I'm in a bad place now. That humility is what is missing in several organizations today. I hear things like, it's not that bad, it's not that bad. Please, if you want to say it's not that bad, then, my brother, you never get to that Eastmont level where there's brand resonance 30, 40 years after you've exited. So I think it's a lot of humility, a lot of critical introspection, and then a certain market focus on internal customer audiences versus external customer audiences. I found by experience that a lot of the concentration sometimes is on improving the service delivery paradigms, the brand resonance paradigms with external customer audiences. Paradoxically, when you come inside, we finish delivering a customer service strategy for a multi-million-dollar health facility. And as I closed on the last two slides, the chief executive kept saying, "Hey, Prof, go back to those last 10 points. Go back to those last 10 points." And the first issue on that slide was that the people felt like for the level of service they were delivering, their money should be more. Paradoxically, that institution didn't have any more money to give, but they had premium customers who they billed at a premium. So when the internal employees saw the big bills, they thought, hey, but this one contribute to know. Why aren't I getting a lot of, but they are massive overhead. So what the institution had to do was break down to the people inside that not all the money you see can be paid to you. There's a whole system. So they agreed that, look, Prof. Hinson, most of what you're saying, you validated with your team. We had a sense, but well done. So I remember the key takeout was go and finish a service competency framework for us so that we can start building our internal customer audiences to properly prepare them for the external customer service delivery. So if you're asking me what to do, the first thing for me will be build your internal customer service capacity, make the employees stronger, explain the service strategy to them, train them, make them potent missiles for that marketplace you want to serve. When you finish sorting out the internal customer audiences, then by the time you're explaining service strategy, route to market, customer experience journey, they are including. So they come with a certain avowed intent to wow the customer because they are empowered from the beginning. So I think if Africa is listening, please, we need better paradigms for internal customer service management and make sure that these guys understand the issues, are empowered for the journey. Then when we start engaging the external customers, it becomes a smoother journey to run.
The nicest way to wrap a discussion is to get a promise that we will do another conversation.
Yes, please.
At a time that your schedule will permit.
Yes, please.
But we cannot sign off without returning to the point on which we began this conversation.
Yes,
and
please.
that is the point about understanding the customer.
Yes,
and
so
not assuming that what works for A works for B.
For the last 20 years, I've been saying that superior service delivery is superior value delivery. That's it. The money is inconsequential if the value takeout is always superior to anything you charge. So what especially premium customers are looking for is a consistent high value takeout. You see that chief executive, the $10,000 is not a point for business or no. It's the value. It's the value. So I'm happy you ended with that story because clearly they misdiagnosed the value needs of the customer, which is the bane of a lot of institutions in Africa today. We assume that, if we reduce, you'll be happy. No, we don't. We want faster service, not reduction in price. So part of building stronger service paradigms is to strengthen our value research capacity. What is value to A? What is value to B? And having clear segments where segment by segment, we have a keen sense of the value needs in every segment so that at every segment delivery level, our value takeout is higher than the price we are charging. Trust me, you'll be happy for a long time and you don't need to fail at any
Prof,
point.
talking about happiness, look into camera and speak to Sandra.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Who consistently served and was laughed at by her colleagues.
Absolutely.
But one day, her reward came. It was a big jump.
Absolutely.
Speak to the Sandras of this world who render quality service and sometimes look like it's a business for your father.
Absolutely.
And their colleagues laugh at them. Speak to them from your years of experience about the end of somebody who's consistent.
So please, I want to close by sharing with you the smallest book I've ever written on customer service. It was published about 6 weeks ago, where I discussed customer service in Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana. And I want to close by speaking to Africa again. Listen, your greatest service opportunities sometimes come at your lowest delivery ebb, when you are down, when things are not working. But the critical thing to understand is that at every customer touch point, like I've said, time without number, you have only 10 to 15 seconds to amaze that customer. When you succeed, it's a moment of magic. When you fail, it's a moment of misery. Your job on a daily basis is to create more magic than you create misery so that you can increase your chances of business breakthrough and organizational success. Bye, Africa. See you soon. Yay.
On the wings of magic versus misery, I sign off on this incredible conversation with Professor Robert Hinson. Prof, it's always good to have you here.
Pleasure, sir.
I officially announce that you how they have frequent flyer.
Yes, please.
On airlines.
Yes, so
you are the most frequent resource person.
Yes, please.
From the year 2008 that this intervention started.
I've been here several times.
The number one.
Thank you, sir.
On this platform.
And
in
I'll
terms
keep
of
coming.
consistency.
Thank you,
keep
sir.
coming.
Thank you.
Right. So this has been Springboard, your virtual university with Professor Robert Hinson, sharing with us not just about the universality of marketing like he did last week, but very importantly, service recovery, starting with the excellence, the recovery framework, and then also on rebranding. I pray that it is beneficial to you as an individual, to your institution, to the nation, and in a sign-off to the continent of Africa. He says bye to Africa. So that is the sign-off on that one. My name is Albert Ocran, thanking you on behalf of the Springboard Roadshow Foundation, our partners, MTN Ghana and the Enterprise Group, and our media partners, the Multimedia Group and the Graphic Communications Group. God bless you, and God bless you.
He's a turn around.
Turning point. Yeah.
He's a turn around.